السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد فإن خير الكلام كلام الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. As for proceeds, I start up by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who has allowed us to gather together in a masjid from the masajid of Allah. Who has narrated that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, مَجْتَمَعَ قَوْمٌ فِي بَيْتٍ مِّن بُيُوتِ اللَّهِ, that a people do not come together in a house from the houses of Allah Jalla wa Ala, يَتْلُونَ كِتَابَ اللَّهِ, reciting the book of Allah, وَيَتَدَارَسُونَهُ فِيمَا بَيْنَهُمْ, and teaching it to one another. إِنَّا نَزَلَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ السِّكِينَةُ, except that tranquility, it descended upon them. وَغَشِيَتْهُمُ الرَّحْمَةُ, and mercy engulfs them. وَحَثَّتْهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ, and the angels, they surround them. وَذَكَرَهُمُ اللَّهُ فِي مَنْ عِنْدَهُ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned those within the government. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this gathering from those governments. As for proceeds, today inshallah ta'ala we'll be starting a book that is known as the Laamiyah within Taymmiyah, rahimahullah ta'ala. And in today's session, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to have an introduction which will be the biography of Ibn Taymmiyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, a brief one. So we're going to quickly discuss and talk about parts of his life. And then that's going to be part one. And then part two, we will move on to discussing the actual author of this book. Was this book actually to Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymmiyah? Because there is a difference of opinion regarding that. And in the final part of the lesson, we'll cover, inshallah ta'ala, the first two lines, maybe the first 3 lines, inshallah ta'ala, of the poem. The poem, as you're all aware, is a poem that consists of 16 lines. It's a very short poem. And people can memorize it. So, inshallah ta'ala, I advise anybody that's, participating in this class to try and memorize the lines by the time that we finish the book. And the plan is to complete the book, inshallah ta'ala, in 3 sessions. So, when we complete the book, inshallah ta'ala, if you have memorized, feel free to leave it in the question you can get. But before we start, is anybody that plan to memorize a month? Anybody wants to memorize it? Inshallah, let's. Okay. Part one, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to be talking about Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymmiyah. His name is Ahmed, the son of Abd al-Halim, the son of Abd al-Salam. Ahmed, the son of Abd al-Halim, the son of Abd al-Salam. He was born in the year 661 Hijri, and he died in the year 728. He died in the year 728. His kunya is Abu al-Abbas, and for those that don't know what kunya is, it is when a person calls himself Abu something if he's a male, or Umm something if she's a female. And generally speaking, the kunya is usually the father of the actual child that the person has, or the mother of the child that the person has. But in some scenarios, there are people that have kunyas that aren't connected to their children, such as Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu and other than that. His kunya was Abu al-Abbas, and his nickname was Taqiyuddin. So Abu al-Abbas Taqiyuddin Ahmed. Ahmed is his actual name, Ibn Abd al-Salam. He was born in a place known as Harran. which would be in modern-day Syria. And he came from a family of knowledge. A family of not just knowledge, a family of scholars. You will find that his father, Abdul Halim, was a scholar. And his grandfather, Abdul Salam, was from the greatest of scholars of his time. Abdul Salam. Abdul Salam is also known as Ibn Taymmiyah. But when they say mention Deen and Taymmiyah, they usually refer to his grandfather. And his grandfather, Abdul Salam, he authored a book known as Muntaqā al-Akhbār. Muntaqā al-Akhbār. This book that he authored, the reason why I mentioned it is because the majority of the people attending have come across a book known as Umdat al-Ahkam, which is a book that has been authored in the hadith containing two jurisprudence. So there are certain books of hadith, they come in different types. There are some that, for example, focus on fada'i, which are virtues and things like that. And there are some that focus on jurisprudence, referring to issues pertaining to them. And Umdat al-Ahkam is one of them. And a lot of the scholars, what they say is when somebody is learning fiqh in terms of the hadith, they start with the book Umdat al-Ahkam because number one, it consists of a hadith that you will find both in Bukhari and Muslim. Also because it's not big in size, it's quite small in size in comparison to the other books. And then they say move on to a book known as Bulugh al-Maram, which you probably all heard of, that was written by Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. After that book, a lot of the scholars, they advise people to move into Muntaqā al-Akhbār, which is another book that has the hadith pertaining to jurisprudence, the hadith al-Ahkam, but it is a lot bigger than Bulugh al-Maram, and it was written by the grandfather of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymmiyah, who was Muhyiddin Abd Salam. So that was his grandfather. His father was a scholar himself, like I mentioned. He was a great scholar. However, some of the scholars, when they're talking about his father, they said that his father, قال الذهبي رحمه الله تعالى, they spoke about him and he said, اختفى بين نور القمر وضوء الشمس. He said that he became hidden by the light of the sun and the light of the moon. And what he's referring to over here is that Ibn Taymiyyah's father was hidden because of the greatness of his son and the greatness of his father. Because Abdul Salam was the grandfather of Ibn Taymiyyah, was a massive scholar, was authored books that till today scholars are teaching. I don't know if Sheikh Tariq al-Fawzan is still teaching the book of the grandfather of Ibn Taymiyyah, but when I was there a few years back, he was actually teaching that book, Isse, and it took him a very long time. There's also a scholar known as Imam Shawkani, rahimahullah, who died a few hundred years ago, who had the explanation of Muntaqā al-Akhbār, which is known as Nail al-Awtad, who some of you might have come across. So there he says that Ibn Taymiyyah's father, he became covered by his son, which is Ibn Taymiyyah, who became like one of the greatest scholars, of all time, and his father, who was a great scholar himself. But he himself was a great scholar, he was covered by them too. Now, so that's a little bit about his lineage. That's a little bit about Ibn Taymiyyah's lineage. Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, because he was from this family, he started seeking knowledge at a very young age. And he was sitting with scholars at the age of 6, 7, 8 years old, at a very, very young age. And he studied all the sciences. He memorized the Quran. And then he moved on to, the other sciences such as al-fiqh, such as hadith, such as usul al-fiqh, such as al-nahu. He studied all of these sciences in depth. And he memorized it. And then by the age of 20, he had attained so much knowledge and he had amassed so much knowledge that the people said that he, at this point in his life, he's in a position where he's able to get Islamic verdicts at the age of 20 years old. And he studied with around 200 different scholars. With around 200 different scholars. And he'd reached a level in knowledge whereby he would think that when he talks about a particular science from the sciences of the religion, that he did not study any science except for that science. So for example, if he was to talk about al-fiqh, a person would think to himself that this person has spent his whole life just studying al-fiqh. If he spoke about hadith, you would think that he spent his whole life studying hadith. If he spoke about al-nahu, you would think this person is just a person of al-nahu. And for those that don't know, it is very hard to get to a high level in just one science. So for you to think that you become an expert in all of the different sciences is something out of the norm. It was said that he was extremely intelligent. He was a genius with amazing memory. And on top of this, some of the scholars, they also said that he had a clean heart, meaning that it wasn't just a fact that he was smart and he was intelligent, that Allah allowed him to grasp all this knowledge. But with that, he probably had a clean heart and a sound heart, which allowed him to be very, very beneficial. Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen, rahimahullah ta'ala, when he's speaking about Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymmiyah, he says something very interesting. He says that the knowledge that Ibn Taymmiyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, was given, he considered it a karama. And a karama is, for example, things that a person does that goes out of the ordinary norms of the human being, and it's usually like a sign from Allah Jalla wa Ala. He's saying the knowledge that Ibn Taymmiyah was given in terms of the religion is a karama from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In terms of that's how much knowledge this man Ibn Taymmiyah from Allah ta'ala he had. You will find that having a clean heart, to be somebody who doesn't have amrad al-qulub, which is sicknesses of the heart, it also helps with knowledge. There's an ayah that Ibn Taymmiyah rahimahullah ta'ala mentioned some benefits regarding, which in the ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he say, تِلْكَ الدَّارُ الْآخِرَةُ, this is, or that is, the day of judgment. نَجْعَلُهَا لِلَّذِينَ لَا يُرِيدُونَ عُلُوًّا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَا فَسَادًا. You made it for those things that do not want to seek kindness in this world, nor corruption. So based on this ayah, what has been deducted is that the people, there are 4 types. The first of them are those who do not want to cause corruption. I mean, those who want to... No. The first of them are those who want to seek a high status in this world and they aim to cause corruption. And he said that you will find this amongst the people that are leaders a lot of the time. They want to be in a high position and they want to be held in high regards in the people's eyes. But on top of that, they usually want to cause corruption as well, because that's what politics usually causes. Then he said the second type of people are those who don't want high status. However, they love to cause corruption on earth. And he said you will find this amongst the low-level criminals. The third type of people are those who want high status, but they don't want to cause corruption on earth. And he says that you will find this a lot amongst the students of knowledge and the scholars, people that spend their time seeking knowledge. Why? Because some of them, they want status, but necessarily they don't want to cause corruption on earth. And he said the final group are those that don't want high status on earth, and they don't want to cause corruption, and these are the people of the Jannah. So that's just to say. Now, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymmiyah rahimahullah ta'ala, he had many different surroundings in his life that played out. When he was a young child, there's a few stories that have been narrated about him. He was retired when he was actually 7 years old, and he was memorizing the Quran. And his father used to give the teacher that would teach Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymmiyah and help him memorize the Quran, and would give him a certain amount of money. He gives to Ibn Taymmiyah after every month if he memorizes the Quran, makes to memorize. And the surprising thing was when the teacher tried to give Ibn Taymmiyah that wealth, at that young age of 7 or around 8, I don't know what age he was very, very young, it was said that he said, I have made a covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I'm not going to take this money from me memorizing the Quran. And that being the key of things I've been narrating about. It's also been said, another story, whereby I think he was a little bit older, maybe in his teenage years or the year older, that's something like it. His family went out on a picnic, or they went out to have some fun outside of the house. And he told them that he'd rather stay at home. And he didn't go with them. And then when they came back, they asked him, and had a lot of fun, and he didn't spend time with us. And he said, you missed out. I ended up memorizing the whole book. And the book that they usually say that he memorized in that time frame was the book that is known as Rawdatul Nadr, within the Nadr, which is a book that had been written by Abdalla, which is a very difficult book. It is the book that he's referring to that he had memorized and studied in that time frame. If you was to see it today, you'd be very surprised. It is a book that, for example, in the Faculty of Sharia in Medina and also in Riyadh, they teach the students over a period of 4 years. And there's so much stuff. And that's how difficult it is. And he said that he memorized that in that time. And all of this shows that he wasn't an average or a normal individual. There are other stories, for example, whereby he ended up having a bit of a discussion with one of the greatest scholars of the Nahw at one time in his life, who is known as Abu Hiyyan. And he debated with him regarding issues pertaining to Nahu, which is very surprising because Abu Hayyan is almost considered one of the greatest scholars of all time in Nahu. He's one of the greatest scholars. And Ibn Taymmiyah and him went forth and back. And he said to him, it says this in a book known as Al-Kitab, which is written by Sibui, which is usually the book that a lot of the scholars of Nahu go back to. And Ibn Taymiyyah saying there's a number of points in that book that I disagreed, which shows the level that he reached in Nahu. He's disagreed with one of the main books that all of the scholars of Nahu they return back to. His memory from a young age, from a very young age, people had known about him when he was in his teens or when he was even younger than that, when he was about 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. It became well known that there's a young boy growing up who has immaculate memory. And a man tried to test him once and was testing if his memory was actually as good as people are saying, and he was really surprised after testing it. So these are a few stories that have been narrated about Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymmiyah. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymmiyah, a lot of scholars had actually studied with him and taken on him. From the scholars that had studied with him is the well-known scholar Imam al-Dahabi. Imam al-Dahabi was a very, very good scholar himself. He has written the book that is known as Siyar A'lam al-Nubala. Siyar A'lam al-Nubala. He had taken from Ibn Taymmiyah rahimahullah ta'ala. Another one of the scholars is a scholar known as Mizzi, who was a massive hadith scholar who benefited from Ibn Taymmiyah, but was a scholar himself at the time. His main students is a scholar that is known as Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawzi, who the majority have probably heard of. And that was Ibn Taymmiyah rahimahullah ta'ala, his main students. And he himself is a very, very high-level scholar. And we could almost argue that there isn't a person like him today in terms of knowledge. And that was Ibn al-Qayyim, that was his student. He's authored multiple books. From the best of his books, of one of the great books that he's authored, that a lot of the people in the West can highly benefit from, is a book that is known as Ad-Da' wad-Dawa, the disease and the cure. This book deals with issues pertaining to the heart, people having al-amrad al-nafsiyya, sickness pertaining to the heart, whereby he has maybe it could be the case that the person, he falls in love, which a lot of the scholars, they say that is the reason why he actually wrote this book, because a person was complaining about a problem that he had. And some of the scholars said that he fell in love to a degree where it destroyed his life. But it benefits anybody with issues whereby they've lost control over their desires. And it's a fantastic book. It's been translated in English, and it's a book that the people can benefit from. He's written other books, known as Zad al-Ma'ad, and many other books. Many other books. His books are fantastic, and I advise people to read them. One of the students of Ibn Taymmiyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, is Ibn Kathir, who the majority have come across his tafsir. He has a tafsir, and the tafsir, I think it's been translated in English as well. He was from the students of Ibn Taymmiyah, rahimahullah ta'ala. He also has a book known as Al-Bidayah wal-Nihaya, the beginning and the end, which is it's a history book, because it starts from the beginning time all the way to around this time, and it's a very, very long book as well. So these are from the students of Ibn Taymmiyah, rahimahullah ta'ala. They were main brothers. He was the person that was kind of baridan an dunya. He was somebody that was not connected to the world. He didn't have a connection of the world with a zahid. He was a person who left the world behind him. It was said that he didn't even marry. He never got married. And honestly, this isn't from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The sunnah is that a person, he does get married if he can. Like this was due to the fact that he spent all of his time studying in between books. He said that he was always between books. He was either reading the book, or memorizing the book, or authoring the book. This was his life. So, because of his soul or his busyness with knowledge, it kind of prevented him from getting married. It was said that you would never ever hear Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymmiyah talking about affairs pertaining to women or dunya affairs and things like that. He was so immersed in that knowledge. Honestly, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he found out about the three people, the one that said, I'm going to fast every day, and the one that said, I'm going to stay up every night, and the one that said that I'm not going to get married, he told them that this was not from his sunnah, and when they turned away from the sunnah, and he's not from him. So this is where we know that he's not supposed to leave the whole world up. Let me say that he did this due to maybe being very, very focused and engaged in knowledge. He engaged in jihad as well, because during his time, the Mongols, what they had done is they were literally destroying the Muslims. They destroyed multiple farms. They destroyed towns, in modern day Persia today. they were trying to literally destroy the whole world. And they put him down to Syria, and it was surprising that a scholar of his caliber would be the front liners when it came to jihad. And this shows his bravery and what kind of individual he was. The scholars, they praised him a lot. Even the Taymmiyah was a great scholar during his time. He spoke about him and spoke about the knowledge that he has. And a lot of the scholars, when they speak about him, they said, one of the scholars, he said that Ibn Taymmiyah, he has never seen, we've never seen a person like him in terms of memory and knowledge. And bear in mind, he lived at a time of better scholars. And he himself has never seen anybody like him in terms of the knowledge that Allah had given Islam. Now, so regarding his death, he died in jail. And Ibn Taymmiyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, he was jailed multiple times in his life. Sometimes some of the narrations, they say that he was jailed up to 21 times. And this was for a different reason, usually because of the stances that he held in the religion. Some of the stances that he held, and they went directly against the people of innovation who were present at the time. And they weren't happy with what he was saying, so they would get the leaders against him and he would be arrested for this is some sort of 8 to 21 times. This isn't something that is far-fetched. One, it doesn't mean that he was arrested for a long period each time. Sometimes it was very short, it'd be a day, 2 days, and things like that. And it could have been during the end of his life, and he died in prison. He was arrested for about 2 years or more than 2 years. During that time, they prevented him from writing, because Shaykh al-Islam didn't think he had the capabilities of changing the whole jail cell into people, students of knowledge, due to the knowledge that he had, the way he carried himself. So he spent the last period of his life focusing on the Quran. When he was in jail, he would read the Quran multiple times, from end to end, without the Musaf, obviously, because he was a strong hafiz. And it was said that he read the Quran over 8 times whilst he was in his jail cell. And he died whilst reading the last ayat in Surah Al-Qadr. And he was reading, إِنَّ الْمُتَّقِينَ فِي جَنَّاتٍ وَنَهَرٍ فِي مَقْعَدِ صِدْقٍ عِندَ مَلِيكٍ مُقْتَدِرٍ. They said that he read these last ayat that are talking about, the people with Jannah and things like that. And this was his end. When he died, a lot of people went to his funeral and they realized their gem that they had lost. Therefore, Islam Ibn Taymmiyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, this is a short biography that I was going to mention. He authored a lot of books. We're going to quickly go over some of the books that he authored, for those people that might want to go over them. One of the books that he authored is Al-Aqidatu Al-Wasitiyya. Al-Aqidatu Al-Wasitiyya, which is a well-known book. You'll find that a lot of du'ats or people, callers in the West, they teach. It's a very, very good instant Aqidah. He authored another book known as Al-Fitwa Al-Hamawiyya. Al-Fitwa Al-Hamawiyya. Another book that he authored is the book that is known as Al-Risala Al-Tadmuriyya. Al-Risala Al-Tadmuriyya. And all three of the books that I've mentioned so far are books that he's authored in Aqidah, in Creed. These are all creedal books that he's authored. The scholars, they teach these books in Bordeaux. Because if you was to ask, some of the ulama how they study Aqidah, for example, Shaykh Salih al-Fawzan, he was asked, which book should we study first? Should we study Al-Hamawiyya first, or should we study Al-Wasitiyya first? And he said, oh, Akhi, the scholars, the way that they taught us was they started with Kitab al-Tawqeed by Shaykh Muhammed and Abdul Wahhab, which is in Tawqeed al-Uluhiyyah. So Tawqeed is a Nisa. You put Tawqeed al-Uluhiyyah, which is the Tawqeed of singling out Allah and no need His worship. You have Tawqeed al-Rububiyyah, which is the Tawqeed of singling out Allah and no need His actions. You put Tawqeed al-Asma' wa Sifat, which is singling out Allah alone in His name not used, and affirming for Him that which He's affirmed for Himself, and that which Allah, which His Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam affirmed for Him, and that which the Prophet also negated from Him, and that which He negated from Himself, He negated from Him. So, Kitab al-Tawqeed is the book that looks in Tawqeed al-Uluhiyyah. And some of the scholars, they say before that book you should study Quran and Taymmiyah as well. But back to Shaykh Salih al-Fawzan, he was saying Kitab al-Tawqeed was the book that they sold. And then they move on to Al-Wasitiyya, and Aqidatu Al-Wasitiyya, which is the book that was written by Ibn Taymmiyah that we mentioned. And then he said that they would teach them Al-Hamawiyya, which is Al-Fitwa Al-Hamawiyya, which is the order that Shaykh al-Islam authored. And then after that, they would move on to Al-Risala Al-Tadmuriyya, which is more of an advanced book, and they would study that. And he said after they've completed that, they would move on to the explanation of Tahawiyya by Ibn Abi al-Aziz al-Hanafi. So he put, this is how we revert. And that's just a bit about how to do tadabbur, how you teach Sunnah peoples. Rabiat al-Wasiti, then Fiqh al-Amawiyya, and then Al-Risalat al-Maliyya. Another book that he authored, that was gathered, was his Majmu' al-Fatawa, the gathering of his Islamic verdicts. And this book, today, it consists of 37 volumes. And these are just the Islamic verdicts that he gave forth. There were different rulings that he had mentioned regarding the questions that he was being asked. 37 volumes. And he was gathered by a scholar named Abdalla al-Qasim. That didn't been that long ago. I think he's a grandfather of the Sheikh known as Abdul Muhsin Qasim, who's wrote the books that are known as Al-Mutoon Al-ilmiyya. You've seen the books of Al-Mutoon Al-ilmiyya, the small books? Yeah, grandfather. So he gathered the Majmu' al-Fatawa from different princes and he gathered together in 37 volumes. He's also authored a book known as Darb al-Ta'arudi al-Aqli wal-Naql, which is basically, it's pushing away the ta'arud, which is the conflict between the mind and that which is in the text. So this book, Ibn al-Qayyim, his student, considered it the best book to be authored ever. Obviously, we're referring to books that have been authored, when we're referring to Ahadith and Quran and things like that. He said, وَقَعْ كِتَابَ الْعَبْدِ وَالنَّقْلِ الَّذِي مَا فِي الْوُجُودِ لَهُ نَظِيرٌ ثَانٍ. In his poetry, he says, read the book that is known as Al-Aqli wal-Naql, the book that we referred to. And then the one, مَا فِي الْوُجُودِ لَهُ نَظِيرٌ ثَانٍ, that there doesn't exist a book and a second book that is similar like it. He's also authored other books. One of the books that he authored is a book known as Raf'u al-Malan and A'immat al-A'lan, which is removing the brain from the scholars, meaning the scholars of the madhab, the different scholars of the madhab. And he's wrote ones full of those. So that is regarding Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymmiyah rahimahullah ta'ala, his lines, some of the books that he authored, and that's part one of today's class. Any questions regarding that?
Yeah, just for few days, he was born, sorry.
He was born in 661.
669.
He died in the year 728.
You know regarding the fourth book you said by Ibn Abi al-Hanafi.
Yeah.
Do you know if that's been is that explanation online or like any Wallah bil-ilm who've gone through that?
The only person that I know who touched on that book in English is the guy called but I don't know anyone else. I don't know if he completed it. I mean, he started the hour plan, but I don't know if he completed it. Usually it's more of a quite an advanced book. So usually we find it excellent. Like, we wouldn't usually find people explaining that book in English because there's a lot to it. But nah. Okay. Any other questions?
You mentioned the last two books you were talking.
Are you talking about the Ibn Taymiyyah books? Darb al-Ta'arud al-Aqli wal-Naql, and I also mentioned Raf'u al-Malan and A'immat al-A'lan. And obviously he has a lot more books. These are just some of the books that he's authored. He's authored a lot more books. And Shaykh al-Islam, I'm sure there are a number of books that have even reached us. He will both a lot in the capability of writing English fast. Some of the books that that have been mentioned that he's authored that people study today, authored them while he was on a journey, or he authored them to some nothing like that. So he wasn't the average individual. He was somebody that's most to choose. But part two to this class. Then he bring up part two. Itself, if he authored it. Nah, who actually authored the book means the book actually need to turn. Nah. So, Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, some of the scholars, they saying he has actually not authored this book. So this book, there's a deceit called whether he needs to author it or if he's not. So I'm just going to quickly mention why did he see some of the point regarding that, and then we'll move on to the first two marriages, inshallah ta'ala. Point one, okay. The opinion that a number of scholars they hold is that we believe that he is the author. We believe that he is the author of this poem. There's none. The reasons for it is why. The book has only been attributed to him. The poem, I'll put it on the answer from the book is point. The poem has only been attributed to him, meaning that it's not being attributed to anybody other than him. And what you will find is that when there's a dispute with regards to it's a poem or a book and actually somebody, there might be another person that is being attributed also. This poem has only been attributed to Ibn Taymmiyah. Some people are saying this isn't attributed. We don't know who the owner of the poem is. We don't know who wrote the poem. Some people are saying that, and other people are saying it's Ibn Taymmiyah who wrote the poem. So that's the first one. The second point, why we believe Ibn Taymmiyah actually wrote this poem, is the views of the poem go hand in hand with that which he believed and that which he quotes. The creed that Ibn Taymmiyah rahimahullah ta'ala will quote in his other books, they go hand in hand with this poem. So it makes sense for us to say that this book is Ibn Taymiyyah's book, or this poem is Ibn Taymiyyah's poem. Some of the scholars have said it was his book. Some of the scholars, they directly attributed it to him. So most of the scholars, they don't say that. They say that this book has been attributed to Ibn Taymiyyah. They don't necessarily say 100% we are sure it's Ibn Taymiyyah's book. But there are scholars in the past that have actually done that. So there's a scholar known as Alusi, in his book Jalad al-Ainain, he directly said that this poem is Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala's poem. And there are other scholars who didn't say it was directly his poem, that came a long time ago, such as Al-Mawdawi, who was one of the great scholars of the Hanbali madhab. Ahmed ibn Abdalla al-Mawdawi, he said that this poem is the poem that has been attributed to Ibn Taymiyyah. That's what he said in his book. But he didn't say it was Ibn Taymiyyah, because it's a book that's been attributed to Ibn Taymiyyah, meaning that he wasn't 100% sure it was Ibn Taymiyyah's poem, but he believed it's attributed to him. Now, Ibn Taymiyyah said in his fatwas, that was the reason number 3. Some of the scholars, they said it's his book. Reason number 4 was some scholars, they've actually mixed it too, but they didn't say it simple. Ibn Taymiyyah, or his point, Ibn Taymiyyah, he said in one of his fatawa, so remember that book that I spoke about, which is Majmu' al-Fatawa, the book of his verdicts. He said in that book, وَقَدْ أَنْشَدَ الْمُنْشِدِ, and the poet recited, he said the poet recited, and then after that, he recited a line from the lines of Laamiyah to Ibn Taymiyyah. So Budraj said, in his fatwa, he said that the poet he ciphered, that the poet said, and then he brings about a line from the lines of Laamiyah to Ibn Taymiyyah. And this line is قُرْحًا لِمَنْ نَبَدَ الْقُرْآنَ وَرَآهُ وَإِذَا اسْتَدَلَّ يَقُولُ قَالَ الْأَخْطَرِ. That line, he used it and he said the poet said this. So there are 3 possibilities based on this statement. Possibility number 1 is that he authored. Why? Even though he didn't mention his name, saying that I authored it and then wrote the line down, he didn't say I'm the poet, I said this, and even though he didn't mention himself, it could be the concise, he was referring to himself, but he couldn't mention himself by name. That is a possibility. Another possibility is that this line, this particular line in the poet, he didn't necessarily come with this line. He might have got it from another poem. But at the same time, does that make sense? So, this particular line in the poem might be a line that is found in another poem, and then he uses it in his poem. Sometimes it's poets to view that they find a line in another poem, he likes that line, he adds it to his own poem. Now, that's a possibility, so that wouldn't go against the fact that he authored the poem. And there's also the possibility that maybe he didn't author the poem, which is the third possibility. Lakin, this point so does not go against the fact that we believe that he's the author of this poem. Another point, which is probably one of the most used points for him not being the author, on those people that don't believe that he's the author of this poem, is they say that in some of the prints of the book, so I don't know what prints that you all have, but if you look at the prints that you have, look at the line where the author says, وَأَقُولُ بِالْقُرْآنِ مَا جَاءَتْ فِيهِ. What did he say? Somebody else.
And I say regarding the Quran, only that which has come in its verses.
No, really. So in Arabic, you got Arabic as well.
وَأَقُولُ فِي الْقُرْآنِ مَا جَاءَتْ بِهِ آيَاتُهُ فَهُوَ الْكَرِيمُ الْمُنْزَلُ.
وَهُوَ الْكَرِيمُ الْمُنْزَلُ. They are saying that in some prints, it says فَهُوَ الْقَدِيمُ الْمُنْزَلُ. So it doesn't say Kareem in some of them. And this statement saying that the Quran is Kareem, saying that it's something that is ancient, is a statement that's only used by the people of Kalam. people of aviation and science. So they're saying the fact that there is this tense, where it has qadim instead of kareem, it has ancient instead of noble, shows that this cannot be from Ibn Taymmiyah rahimahullah ta'ala. So Ibn Taymmiyah would have never said qadim. He couldn't have said qadim. So how come there are certain prints of the poem that say qadim instead of kareem? And Ibn Taymmiyah rahimahullah ta'ala, he himself, he's of the view that this poem it shouldn't be attributed to Ibn Taymmiyah rahimahullah ta'ala, and this is one from some of the reasons that he uses. But what seems to be the case is that Ibn Taymmiyah rahimahullah ta'ala didn't actually say qadim, or rather he actually said kareem, and this is what was today with us today, right? But the people that actually wrote up his writings in the past, they never had printers, right? So the only way that books would be copied is somebody would actually get the manuscript or whatever that the scholar used to actually write, and they would look at it, they would try to read it, and then they would copy it down. This is the way that been print books in the past. And there's no doubt that when somebody is copying one book and making basically a copy of the book, he might make mistakes. So we believe that this mistake has probably come from the person that was copying. Probably the person that was copying the manuscript, rather than it coming from Ibn Taymmiyah rahimahullah ta'ala himself. Now, that's regarding who the book has been attributed. Right. So we believe that the book, so these are the three possibilities. Possibility number one, Ibn Taymmiyah, we are 100% sure Ibn Taymmiyah authored this story, and we're not. No one's 100% sure that Ibn Taymmiyah authored this poem. Possibility number two, we think that he authored the poem based on the evidences that we've put forth. Number one, it goes hand in hand with his aqidah. Number two, it's not been attributed to anybody other than him. And number four, and then possibility number three is that he did not author the poem, which some scholars they hold. But this is, I mentioned a little bit about that, so that's part number two. Any questions about part number two? No? Okay, but I can move on to now. Part number three, which is the actual poem. No. So the poet, he says, يا سائلي عن مذهبي وعقيدتي رزق الهدى من للهداية يسأل. So he starts off by saying, يا سائلي, oh the questioner, عن مذهبي, the questioner, the one that's asking about my doctrine or asking about my madhab, which is my school of thought in terms of creed, وعقيدتي, and my creed. So this part, which is the first half of the first bait of the first line, it clearly shows us that Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymmiyah is responding to a questioner, because he says, oh the questioner, oh my questioner, ya say. And you find that if you look at Shaykh al-Islam rahimahullah ta'ala's books, a lot of the books that he had authored were because people had asked him questions. An example of this is a book known as Arif Philosophy. This book is literally an answer to a person from a place known as Wasid, who came to Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymmiyah and asked him about that aqidah. And he responded to him in this one book. So that one question led Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymmiyah authoring the book number one. Shaykh al-Islam was authored the other book, Fatawa al-Hamawiyya. Same scenario. A person had asked him a question. He responded with a book. And the reason why he called it Hamawiyya was the same as the reason why he called Wasatiyya. Wasatiyya was responding to a person from Wasit, which is modern day Iraq, I think. Hamawiyya is responding to a person from Hama, which is in modern day Syria, a place in Syria. Another book would be, for example, At-Tadmuriyya itself, yes. At-Tadmuriyya is another book where he's responding to a person from a place known as Tadmur, which is in modern day Syria, I think, as well. He has Fatawa al-Misriyya, where he responds to a person from, or people from Misr. So this was the way of Ibn Taymmiyah rahimahullah ta'ala. And in this book, or this poem, he's responding to somebody asking him a question. Madhab, generally speaking, is usually referred to the madhab al-fiqh, the fiqh madhab, the madhab in terms of jurisprudence, what a person believes, such as the madhab of Imam Ahmed, or the madhab of Imam al-Shafi'i, or the madhab of Imam Abu Hanifa, and Malik. But over here, the madhab, what he's being referred to is a person's actual methodology on school of thought in terms of beliefs. The belief. He's not referring to the actual madhab. He's not referring to the actual madhab. Even though, therefore, Islam ibn Taymmiyah rahimahullah ta'ala was a Hanbali in terms of madhab, and he had reached the highest levels in terms of his understanding of the Hanbali madhab. And when you're studying the Hanbali madhab, when they say, قال الشيخ, the sheikhs in this is within Taymmiyah ta'ala. And there are many issues where he gone against him because he was a person of knowledge. And he shows that Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymmiyah, even when he came to fiqh, he would follow the Quran and the Sunnah to the best of his ability. And he wouldn't stick to the method. And there are many issues today where you will find that a lot of people, they are bringing back the blind following of methods again. In the native of Salafiyah, you will find that people, they will say, you will never reach a level where you're able to differentiate between the correct opinion from the incorrect opinion. And this is it's becoming a new thing, where you'll find a lot of people that tell you, run and studied for 10, 15 years. How are you even in a position right now to tell me that this opinion is the correct opinion and this one is not? The reality of the matter is people should study at the beginning, but then there comes a time where a person, he has to strive to follow the truth to the best of his ability. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he told us, وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ, and obey Allah, and obey the Messenger. He didn't tell us to obey human beings. What did Imam Shafi'i and Allah ta'ala say? He said, كُلٌّ يُؤْخَذْ مِنْ قَوْلِهِ وَيُرَدْ. Everyone his speech is taken and is rejected except for Sahih al-Tabari, except for the person on this greatly referring to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, moving on from that. So the madhab that's being referred to over here from the madhab and aql, the freedom method. So what he's trying to say in this line of approach, he's saying, أريد أن أجيبك عما أعتقده من الأمور التي يحصل فيها خلاف مع المبتدع. So he's basically telling you, I want to answer you. So, يا سائلي عن مذهبي وعقيدتي. I want to answer you about what I believe in terms of creed, that there is a difference of opinion between you and the innovators. That is exactly what he's saying, and that's the first point, that's the first half of the person. Then the poet, he moves on to say, رُزِقَ الْهُدَى مَنْ لِلْهِدَايَةِ يَسْأَلُ. رُزِقَ الْهُدَى مَنْ لِلْهِدَايَةِ يَسْأَلُ. The poet then, he makes dua for the question. رُزِقَ الْهُدَى مَنْ لِلْهِدَايَةِ يَسْأَلُ. And this is from the good ways of giving da'wah. Making dua for that person who's asking, or for the person who's reading the book. And you'll find this in the books of Mohammed ibn Abdul Wahhab as well. For example, when he starts with Surah Thalatha, does anybody know what he says? I'lam Rahimakallah. No, may Allah have mercy on him. When you make dua for the person that is reading your book, or the person that is asking you a question, it increases the likelihood of that person accepting what you are going to tell them. And it's a good way of giving that. So he makes dua and also with them in the identities, and what he's saying is, وَزَبَكَ and huda, may Allah give you guidance. You and every single person who has steps, who is striving towards knowing the truth, who is striving towards guidance, who wants to have guidance. And now Allah guide them to the He makes dua for the person that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives رُزِقَ الْهُدَى مَنْ لِلْهِدَايَةِ يَسْأَلُ. May Allah grant you al-hidayah, which is guidance, as long as you're somebody who's striving for that guidance. This is what that second part is referred to. Does that make sense? Then we move on to the second line. And the poet, he says, اسمع كلام محقق في قوله لا ينثني عنه ولا يتبدل. So he said earlier, اسمع كلام محقق. Listen to the speech of a muhaqqiq. And a muhaqqiq is somebody who has done in-depth research about a matter, and he has made sure of what he's done researching. Yani muhaqqiq, somebody who's done in-depth research about a particular matter, and he has made sure that what he has researched is correct. He said, listen to the speech of a muhaqqiq. In his speech, لِقَوْلِهِ لَا يَنْتَنِي عَنْهُ وَلَا يَتَبَدَّلُ. لَا يَنْتَنِي عَنْهُ وَلَا يَتَبَدَّلُ, meaning Actually, we'll come back to the imtinaan words. Now, so, Isse كان كلام الحق. He said, listen to the speech of a person that's done in-depth research regarding what he's saying. In the poem, what is being spoken about is the creedal position of the Imam Ibn Taymmiyah Allah Ta'ala. He's saying that listen to my speech, and this speech that I'm putting forth in front of me, or this speech that you are reading, this poem, is a speech that I am sure about. It is a speech that I have done in-depth research in. And the reason why I'm sure about it and he had because he's done in-depth research in it and he believes it, is because he built this aqidah based on what? Based on the Quran and the Sunnah with evidence. And that's why he's saying, I listen to the speech of a kalam and the haqiq of a person who has made sure and has done in-depth research about this creedal method, listen to it. And then he says, لا ينتهي عنه ولا يتبدل. Meaning, I will not leave it. لا ينتهي عنه, I will not depart it. ولا يتبدل, and I will not change. So he's saying that he will not leave this aqidah. He will not leave it. He will not change this aqidah, no matter what. Why would he not leave and change this aqidah? What if evidence something? Should he still change it? No, why? Because it's already built upon clear evidence. He's already done the research. He's already looked at the clear evidences. They're clear. There's evidences in the some of them. Their states for different. For example, you'll find that hadith. So, for example, a lot of the people that are studying the religion, they think that if the hadith has been mentioned regarding a matter, and then the priest accepts. This isn't always the case. Because number one, we need to make sure, number one, is this hadith authentic? After we've established if the hadith is authentic, the next thing that we need to establish is the wajh al-dilala, which is we need to establish that the meaning that you extracted from this hadith is the correct. Is there only one particular meaning that can be extracted from this hadith, or is it a hadith that they could be slightly different? So there are some hadith and some ayat that are clear. So he's based to aqidah based on clear evidence. Now, inshallah, listen, we're going to move on to the third line, which is Qutb al-Sahada. And inshallah ta'ala, we're going to stop there. This one's going to be quite long, so we might need to finish it. I might need to go a portion of it, and then we'll end it there, inshallah. Like, Qutb al-Sahada fi kullihim li madhhabin. He said, loving the companions, kullihim, all of them, li madhhabin, is my madhhab, is my creedal school of thought. This is the belief that I hold. ومودة القربى بها أتوصل ومودة القربى بها أتوصل. And loving the people that are near to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who are the Ahlul Bayt. He goes, through them I seek nearness to Allah Jalla wa Ala. We're loving them, and loving the Ahlul Bayt and the people that are close to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in terms of his relatives. I seek nearness to Allah to meet us. So now, there are many things that we can extract from this line. This line, he starts talking about the first creedal matter. At the first two lines, he didn't stop with the creed on the first thing. He's still in an introduction. Now he starts with the first issue. The first creedal issue that he started with was the Sahaba, and loving the Sahaba. And it could be the case that the reason for this is the fact that during his time, but after what were the Shia, the Ithna Asrin, the 12, they might have been present in large numbers, and their whole religion is built upon what? It is built upon the hatred and talking about of the companions. You will find that they curse Aisha radiallahu anha, they curse Abu Bakr, and this is their belief system. And the reason why they became misguided was because they have creedal issues when it comes to the companions. Maybe that's why he starts with it. What is a Sahaba? So before we move on, we need to know exactly what a companion is. A companion is man laqiya an-nabiy sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, whoever meets the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, mu'minan bihi, whilst believing in him, wa mata ala dhalik, and he dies upon that. So I'll keep back. A sahabi is man laqiya an-nabiy sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, whoever meets the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, mu'minan bihi, believing in him, wa mata ala dhalik, and he dies upon that. And it is not a condition that he actually sees the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because some of the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they were blind, but they are still companions. designed to test this meeting. So, what are the evidence? Actually, I've got another question. Okay. So the question I'm going to pose is, let's say we have an individual who met the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, read hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but then became a Muslim after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away and died as a Muslim. And he's heard hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, would this person now be a companion? What do you think?
He didn't believe in the Prophet when he seen the Prophet.
He didn't believe when he saw the Prophet, but he believed after, and he heard things from the Prophet. He even narrates hadith to the generations that come after. Would that person be considered a companion?
No.
Why?
Because he didn't believe when he seen the Prophet.
Very good. What did I say the definition was?
Whoever met the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and
Believed him. Yeah, no. Because in his definition, well done. He said the definition is whoever meets the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, believing in him. He doesn't say whoever meets the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and then believes in him, believing in him, and then dies. And those people, there are people like that. They wouldn't be considered. What would they be considered? If they're not Tahabdi, Tabi, they're considered Tabi. No. Wait. So, what are the evidences that we need? Why do we hold the companions such high regards? Are there any evidence? This we're going to go through the evidences in the house of that. So the third evidence is that you will find, and I'm going to mention that evidence. The point is, you will find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He praises the companions in the Quran. You find a hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam where He's praising the companions. And because of this, Allah praises them, and He loves them, and He is pleased with them. That means as Muslims, you need to love them and be patient. So from the evidences is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Muhammadun Rasulullah. Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ أَشِدَّاءُ عَلَى الْكُفَّارِ. Those that are with Him are intense عَلَى الْكُفَّارِ, to the disbelievers. رُحَمَاءُ بَيْنَهُمْ, and merciful to one another. تَرَاهُمْ رُكَّعًا سُجَّدًا, you will find them bowing, sujjadan, and also prostrating. يَبْتَغُونَ فَضْلًا مِنَ اللَّهِ وَرِضْوَانًا, they seek bounty from Allah Jalla wa Ala wa ridwana, and peace. And then Allah carries on praising them. So in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He praises those who are with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ, He praises, He didn't say those few of them that are with Him. He praises them in general. He praises them in general. So that you find that He's been praised over there. Another evidence, what time is Salah?
14, 19.
19. We'll do 5 more minutes now. So another evidence is the evidence whereby the Prophet, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَالسَّابِقُونَ الْأَوَّلُونَ مِنَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ وَالْأَنصَارِ وَالَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُم بِإِحْسَانٍ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayah, He mentions the companions, the Sabiqun al-Awwalun, those first people that would embrace Islam of the Muhajirun, were those who migrated, wal Ansar, and those who made the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam victorious. Those who migrated are the companions that migrated from Mecca to Medina, and those who made him victorious, the Ansar, are those that were in Medina. Wal Ansar, وَالَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُم بِإِحْسَانٍ, and those who followed them in righteousness. رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ. What did Allah say? Allah is pleased with them. Allah is pleased. If Allah is pleased with the companions, then we need to be pleased with the companions as well. You find that another evidence that the companions, rahimahullah, the companions radiallahu anhum, that we need to love them, is the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he says, خَيْرُ الْقُرُونِ قَرْنِي ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ. The best of generation is my generation. Then the generation that follows, and then the generation that follows. Why this evidence? Because the best of generations is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam generation, which are the companions. Another evidence is the speech of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he says, "La tasubbu ashabi," do not curse my companions. فَوَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِي, I swear by the one that my soul is in his hands, in his hand. لو أن أحدكم أنفق مثل أحد مثل أحد ذهبا, I swear by the one that my soul is in his hand. if any of you were to give what is equivalent to Uhud, which is Mount Uhud, which is the big mountain, in terms of gold. He says, if any of you were to give what is equivalent to Mount Uhud in gold, it would not be equal to the mudd of the Sahabi. And a mudd is considered, for example, this amount. If you give this amount in wealth, if a companion gives this amount in wealth, if a companion gives this amount of wealth, and you give the whole of the amount of Uhud, then it would not be twice, or even half of it, or even half of it. So ما أدرك مد أحدهم ولا نصف. And another evidence that the companions have high seekers and we are supposed to live them is that the scholars of hadith, when they accept a hadith, from the conditions that a hadith has to be accepted. Who knows the conditions for a hadith to be sahih? You studied Bayquni or Chef on the Sunnah, right? Does anybody know what the condition was?
It has to be connected.
Solid Sunnah. Right. And what?
Trustworthy.
What?
Trustworthy.
Trustworthy, good.
Position of the Rawi. Position of the Rawi. So top to Rawi.
Yeah, what the Rawi. And then there's another Zazi had plan B. You had it done the that?
No.
And Shad can be. So one of the conditions obviously is that that's trustworthy, right? If he's not trustworthy and he does not go top, it's not accepted from him. When it comes to the companions, the scholars of hadith, they will check their blood and they will check their fiqh and stuff like that. They don't check it. The scholars of hadith, they all agreed upon that the companions, they are people that we accept their hadiths no matter what. We don't question them. Why don't we question them? Because they have been praised and they are people of high status and they're people that we are supposed to give Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's teaching. And we cannot imagine that one of them would say something like the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam except that is true. Now, so these are all different evidences. There are more. Actually, for a few moments. So, another evidence is the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he told us 10 of his companions that are going to be entering into the Jannah. So we have the first one, who is Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. We have Umar ibn al-Khattab, who is the second Khalifa. We have Uthman ibn Affan. He's also told us about Ali ibn Abi Talib. He told us also about Talha, which is the number 5. He's also told us about Zubair ibn Awam. He's also told us about Abu Ubaidah. And he's also told us about Sa'd ibn Abi Waqas. And he also told us about Abdul Rahman ibn Auf. And he also told us about Sa'id. So all of these 10, he told us that they're going to enter the Jannah and he's praised them. And he's also told us other companions that are going to enter into the Jannah like Bilal and Da'i. So the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they've been closed by Allah, they've been closed by the Messenger. The scholars of Hadith have all agreed upon them. So if anybody was to talk bad about any of the companions or something that's done against that's happened between them, know that this person has not gotten in line with the Quran and the Sunnah. And this is why, as Muslims, we say loving the companions, all of them is my methodology. Now, so inshallah there's more to mention about this Sahaba inshallah ta'ala, and we'll be talking about Muwaddatul Qurba inshallah ta'ala of Surah Al-Qadim next week. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Any questions?